So today on Tim Time Projects, I'll look at the camera so you can see that I'm not AI. Who would want AI like this? Today on Tim Time Projects, I'm Tim, and it's time to look at our Tektronix. You've seen this in a couple of videos. I picked this up, the battery didn't work in it, and the guy tried to do a modification to it. It worked sometimes, most of the time it wouldn't. So I ran it off the AC power. Well, if you have one of these, you'll see the battery's kind of crazy, and to try and make a replacement, it's a very simple battery, but to try and make a replacement is just a long, arduous process. So I came up with an idea. Maybe it's easier than I think. What I'll do is I'll take the battery out of here, and it's not a factory battery. I'll get kind of tape and metal things on it. Anyhow, the way these work is the negative lead of the batteries, of course, are right here. It's 4C batteries. The negative lead, the batteries drop straight down here. And right about here is where there's a metal ring on the battery, and there's a metal strap that goes all the way up the top and touches the top of the battery. Well, that's the positive terminal way down there. So when you go to replace the battery, if you don't have the factory battery, you're kind of out of luck. And even if you do have the factory battery, you have to cut that, and I don't know how well it works. So that apparently it didn't work too well in this. You saw I always had it plugged in. So let's take a look and see if I can find a way to make just 4 regular C batteries work in this. Since I didn't have a battery to show you, this is what the battery looks like that's inside this toll or meter, and it's made up of 4 C batteries, and then they glue them all together, and then there's that silver ring that's up not too far up from the negative terminal. That's the positive terminal. Why they did that, I don't know. Then there must be a tab inside the meter that hits against that. I don't know if that's a area for failure as well, because you know, if it vibrates or whatever, if it loses spring tension. Anyhow, and then that kind of purplish line that you can, hopefully it showed up, that's actually underneath the insulation there, so you don't see that, but that goes up and that attaches to the top positive terminal. So my plan here was to basically run a wire that takes the place of that and put a washer or something flat contact on the top terminal, just basically relocating the positive terminal from way down there to the top. Hello? Hello? Okay. So here we have my Tektronix THS720A, and of course the battery, she's no good. So I want to see, there's a lot of talk about repairing the battery and making it the same way, but I have another idea. So we'll just see how this goes. I'll move the camera here so I can get my... That's a 15. Four screws back here, it looks like. Does look like it may have been apart at one point. I'm hoping the back just lifts right off and there's not all kind of craziness going on in here. Something tells me that's not going to be the case. There's 4 screws out. Feels like the front lifts off. Great. This plate slides forward. All I wanted to do was get to the battery housing. If this is the wiring for the battery housing, that would be just great. There's some wiring coming up here. Really don't want to handle that too much. Alright, this looks like this pulls up. And then I can't see what happens. Here's what I believe is the positive wire. The black one goes down to the spring. These are really crazy inside how they... Oh, that's the harness for the... Actually, I'll disconnect it while I do this. I'm just gonna solder a wire right onto here. Maybe. And I'm going to leave the original just in case things go terribly wrong and I don't blow it up. Alright, let me get a little piece of wire now. Guess I should have turned the soldering on a while ago. So in editing the video, I realized that right when the camera decided to go to sleep was when I ran the wire. So here's basically what I did for the wire. You saw when I started to solder it, I just tapped in right here at the red wire that goes down to the battery positive, and I ran it up, and there's a nice gap where the top lid goes, and I was able to just basically push it right through there, and then I tucked the wire in and put the lid back on. Just make sure you don't pinch the wire. And then once I had the other end of it, I left myself a lot extra because I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I put a blob of solder up there, and I think that's where I picked back up when I soldered to the battery. So there you have it. All we're basically doing is relocating where the positive terminal of the battery feeds the tool. All right, whew, that was a lot of work. Let me see if I can put a blob of solder on the top of one of these. I'm gonna need a little bit more heat for that. All right, you can go down in. You can go down in. You can go down in. one more battery to do. And if I can put a blob on, I'll solder that wire to it. If not, got a blob of solder on it, looks like. I'll put this wire on here, it looks like. Turn this way back down again. Alright, that's not pulling off. The cap does have a metal ring around it, but it doesn't appear to go anywhere. Just push that down in there. Yeah, the cap has a metal ring, but there's no attachment to it. Come on. You guys can get in there somehow, some way. Used a lot of extra wire, but I didn't know what I was up against here. Go ahead down in. Okay. All right, it's in. Top's on. All right, it is powering up. Let's see if it gives me battery condition anywhere. I don't know, but that seems to work. See, I have no AC plug-in. I'll put the AC plug-in now and charge it and see how that works. But it's a much better solution, in my opinion, than trying to make that battery with that crazy metal tape that goes all the way down, and then the ring just kind of rests on it. Can't believe there's no battery condition on here somewhere. Put it on scope. Put it on meter. I don't know. All right, well, hey, that works. So in case you missed it, I think you saw some of it. All I did was run a positive wire and solder it to the top. In my case, I soldered it to the top of the battery, but you could put a little metal washer up there to solder it to, so you could flip it out of the way and swap your batteries out. Now this does have rechargeable batteries in it, not the ones I bought. I didn't buy any, this came with it. So alright, well, it worked, and thanks for watching. If you have one of these, the batteries are going like $50 to $100 for aftermarket batteries. You can stay tuned and see if it works, or how long it works for. See ya.